everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So I've decided today to help you. I'm gonna shoot the entire course on how to set up your Airbnb for the first time for free. I paid a lot of money for this, and I went through the pain barrier of 4 years of discovering all the things that I really needed to know that I didn't learn in the course, that you really need to know before you set this up. So watch the video. It's going to be in several parts. Welcome to part one. So let's not mess around. Let's get straight into the video. So I see lots of people asking, is it going to work in my area? How do I know it's going to work in my area? The unfortunate answer is you don't know until you actually do it, but you can do research to help minimize the risk to yourself in setting up one of these apartments. So I'd recommend you really research the nightly costs of apartments and hotels in your area for all of the different seasons. So that's low, mid and peak season. So low season would be the winter time, but not Christmas time, obviously. And then your mid season would probably be early spring, and your peak season would probably be summer. So what I would say with a lot of these Airbnbs is that it's all about location. So if you can pick popular cities where people are already traveling on holiday and there already are apartments and hotels to rent, then you're on to win it. In terms of the apartment itself, if it's got any unique features, our best performing apartments were overlooking the beach and within a short walk of the train station, and had lots of easy access to restaurants and bars in the area. Those are key features in terms of where you're going to place these apartments or houses. So that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to do a spreadsheet. I have the spreadsheet. If you want a copy of it, put your email address in the comments or send it to me on a message. I'll send you a copy of the spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet will give you your low, mid and peak nightly prices. It will give you the occupancy rates that you need to put in, and then it will tell you how much profit you're going to make after costs. Obviously you need to put your costs in of your apartment, so to break it down for you and give you all the costs. So obviously you'll need to run these sort of scenarios to judge whether it's worthwhile you having one of these in your area or just using it for standard tenancies. So there's two scenarios with this. One is that you're going to use your own property and you own it, in which case you should really ask the mortgage company's permission to run your property in short-term lets, and you should also make sure that the lease on the premises allows short-term stays. So that's under 90 days of continuous stay would classify as a short-term stay. The other way is if you do the rent-to-rent model, where you're going to go out to find a landlord who's going to allow you to rent the property from them and then put it on one of the portals to rent for short-term accommodation. So the first option is slightly easier, and obviously it's up to you whether or not you contact the mortgage company to tell them. I would highly recommend you check the lease, because if people in the building find out that you're offering short-term stays, they contact the leaseholder, they can contact your mortgage company and tell them as well. So it's not a great situation to be in. However, lots of people do this, so you know, it's up to you at the end of the day. The other option is to go and find a landlord. And I see lots of people asking, well, how do I find a landlord? How do I do this sort of thing? So, well, the first thing is, where are you going to find these apartments? Mainly you're going to find them at letting agents up for rent for standard tenants. So what you can do is you could approach every single letting agent in your area and say to them with conviction, and this is really important now, you say it with conviction, you say, I have a serviced accommodation business in the area. We rent properties from landlords and letting agents. You get the full rent, and then we sublet the property out to short-term stays. Do you have anything whereby the landlord would be agreeable to us renting it from them and then using it in the short-term stays? So if you say it in a confident way, it's something that you've always done, and also that they think that you know what you're doing, then they're much more likely to let you to have an apartment. And you should also know that 9 times out of 10 they would have been contacted before, and they quite possibly have apartments that they've rented out to short-term accommodation providers. So know that They would have done it before and they would have heard of it. So don't worry about doing a big sort of sales spiel on how it works and what you do and everything else. Just be short and sweet, and this is what we do. I guarantee you, if you contact enough agents, you will find property that you're allowed to use for this. That's what I did, and it will happen. The other option is that you go onto Facebook and you talk to people about what you do. You can get the register of HMO landlords in the area from the council. It's quite likely they'll own the properties, and you can write to them, tell them what you do, and it's quite possible that they'll get in touch. In a second, you can see what they were like. They were town and city centre locations, close to the train stations. They were modern, high-end, high-finish, quite luxury apartments. But at the end of the day, a bit of white paint, some fixtures and furnishings, and you can make other apartments look really nice. So I guarantee that will work. I will put pictures up actually of the apartments that I had in my service accommodation business up. Yeah, so I mentioned about 90 days. That's really important. So if you're under 90 days, you don't need to have a tenancy agreement in place. And if you're wondering what sort of contract to use with the agent for the landlord, they will probably have a commercial let agreement, which is quite close to being suitable for this sort of thing. So you could use a version of that. And you don't have to have an AST in the UK, a tenancy agreement, because you're under the 90-day stays. So tenancy agreement because you're under the 90-day stays. So do I need to pay deposit? You're going to actually pay exactly the same as if you're renting the apartment for yourself. So you're going to pay the search fees. If you've got a limited company, you can act as guarantor if you're an individual, and you can pass their vetting process. You're going to pay the standard fees, you're going to pay the standard deposit, or you could even say to them, can we maybe do deposit insurance, whereby we take out insurance to say that if anything happens to the apartment or house, the insurance will pay for any damages. That's a bit covered. The next thing I would recommend you do, and I'd recommend you do it right now before you've done anything else, is figure out and find out what the verification process is for you to get listed on one of the short-term rental websites, i.e. AirBNB and Booking.com. Because at the time, Booking.com had quite a lengthy process whereby they would send you out a card to your address with a code on it. You'd have to go online. Sometimes the code would take weeks to turn up, or sometimes it wouldn't turn up. One of the workarounds on this is to get in contact with someone at their office and ask them if they'll do a video call walk around to verify you're the owner or occupier of that property, and that's a good hack that we found out would short that process. But do that. You can block out the calendar anyway once you get listed, so you don't have to take any bookings already, but I recommend you do that to make sure you get on the listing process. You don't want to be doing it all and then all of a sudden trying to list and then waiting weeks and you've got an empty house that's all furnished, ready to go, and you can't take any bookings. So make sure you do that first. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get insurance, because you'll need insurance to cover the fact that you're doing short-term stays. If anything happens to guests in the property, you need to make sure you're covered for insurance purposes. So do that as well. And do the contents insurance just in case anything goes wrong, or there's any sort of significant damages, which there could be. So do that. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to draw up a spreadsheet, and you need to put this into a spreadsheet because you're going to use it for other properties. If you decide more, you're going to list out each room in the house, and you're going to list out each piece of furniture that you're going to need for each room. So I normally recommend that you go in 2 bedroom houses or apartments. You go for double or king size bed. And then the other room you go for one of the doubles that can be converted into singles in case people have got kids or they want to have 2 separate beds, and you go for a sofa bed in the lounge. And the reason you're going for a sofa bed in the lounge is because your apartment might sleep 4 people, but you can open it up to sleep 6 with 2 on a sofa bed, and you can charge, I don't know, say an extra £40-50 a night to have the people stay on the sofa bed. That's attractive for people. It makes you more money. It doesn't really cost you anything extra. So you're going to do your spreadsheet. Email me if you want. I'm going to send you a copy of mine. You're going to do a spreadsheet of all the things you need: the kettle, the toaster, the bed linen. I would also recommend that you maybe go the extra mile and you get little things from either IKEA or H&M or any of the cheaper sort of furniture places, things like throws, cushions, some pictures. You don't have to drill walls. You can use the sticky tabs to stick pictures on walls, soap dishes, maybe a coffee machine. You're going to make the apartment stand out. You're going to make it better than anyone else's. You're going to do that by adding these little extras to make it stand out above the competition. And then what you're going to do is you're going to book in a photographer, or Airbnb used to offer the service where they would fuck with the apartments. They're going to take the pictures to make it look really nice. There's a massive difference. If you look at hotels, they get professional pictures done and the rooms look amazing. If you take pictures on your iPhone and you're not very good at taking pictures, it will look quite poor and it will not get you bookings. And when you have your pictures, make sure that your headline picture is of, say, you've got an amazing view or a unique feature or amazing terrace. You're going to have that. It's going to stand out. It's going to put you above. Right, so we've got the apartment, we've got listed, we've got a contract, we've got our insurance, we've got a spreadsheet of furniture, and you're also going to put on the spreadsheet, you're going to put your costs in. You're going to put Argos, IKEA, H&M, because everything matters and it all adds up. You need to make sure that you're staying sharp on what your overheads are and that you're in control of all of your costs. Don't get carried away with it. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to find a cleaning company or a management company to look after the property for you. So I recommend, again, you go on places like Gumtree or Facebook. You can contact cleaners. You're going to take them to the apartment and show them around, tell them what you do. If you can, pay the cleaner more than what their hourly rate is and try to get them to do the extras, like checking to make sure there's enough toilet rolls, checking to make sure that the linen delivery has happened and they're all clean, checking to make sure that the guests haven't broken anything. You could even pay your cleaner to do meet and greets if you want. They'll probably be quite happy with the money. All they have to do is turn up to the apartment, give that person the keys and let them in. It's a great experience for the guest, and it also means that guests tend to look after these apartments and houses a bit better once they think there's a person nearby on site to check them in. So that's good tip for you to do that. So that's what you're going to find all your cleaners. You're going to whittle down maybe the best of 3. Then you're going to make your decision in terms of who the best person is to look after your apartment. The next thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to figure out key collection. So in the UK, there was a company like Keynest, which had shops whereby you gave the guest a code, you generated it on a bit of software, you paid for it, and the guest went to that store and picked up the keys. Is there a restaurant nearby or a hotel nearby or somewhere where you can approach someone that works there and say, look, we've got guests checking into this apartment. Can I give you £5 for every check-in? And they're probably quite happy to take that, because let's say, for instance, they do a couple of check-ins a week. They don't have to do anything. They've just earned another £20 or £80 a month from being sat there and just giving someone some keys. So that's a good thing to do. If you can't do that, check for areas where you can locate key boxes. And when you've installed your key box, take photographs of the key box. I'm going to come on to this a bit later about your check-in process, but take photographs of where the key box is and take photographs of you pressing the buttons and videos to make sure that the guests are clear in terms of what they need to do. So do that. So you've figured out how you're going to get your guests in, how they're going to check in, how you're going to get the keys. You might even want to consider, which is something that I did, which is digital door locks. So a digital door lock means that you don't have to have the guest go and collect keys. And if they lose a key, it doesn't matter. They can still let themselves into the apartment. It's actually a very good thing to consider. They were £100. We're now at the stage where we're going to get ready to get listed. But before you do that, you're going to go through the calendar of events in your area. Are going to check out the prices of other hotels at peak trading times, i.e. music festivals, events, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, things like that. I even made the decision to lock down on New Year's Eve and not have anyone there, because I didn't want the hassle of having to clean the apartment or any damages from excessive parties. I just didn't want to do it. Overall, the ones that we made money on were still making money without having to have the risk of taking the bookings on New Year's Eve, so I just chose not to do it. But you're going to go through the area, you're going to write down all the prices in the peak, that very, very high peak trading times, and then you're going to make sure before you list that you have your calendar all set correctly so that your prices are all correct. And I recommend you do that for as long as you possibly can. There are people out there who will look for properties a year or two in advance, and they will rely on the fact that you haven't bothered to check your pricing, and they will book it then at the cheap price when you haven't bothered to adjust it and you think, oh no, I didn't realize you could do that. Well, you can, so just check it and make sure that you do. So we've covered a lot in this video. I think we've covered enough now for you to think about and to research and do. If you want the information that I've just mentioned, send me a message, put your email address down in the comments, and I'll send you the spreadsheet and the list of things that you need to do to get set up. So we're going to come back in part 1. I'm going to take you through the process of checking guests in, checking that they're legit.